Hello, chat. How you guys doing? Welcome to the second episode of Off Script RP podcast. We are going to be having, as it says in the title, we're going to have three special guests today. We have SincereSix, Zaquelle, and Zhane Taylor. We will be discussing the topic of basically how to balance being a mechanic and having a story in relation to LEO. No real more sense any more than that, so we'll just go ahead and dive right in over here. What's up, everybody? How you guys all doing? Good to see all you guys. All right. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So.
Hello.
Hello. All right. So as you just can hear and see on screen, we've got Zaquelle, Zhane Taylor, and SincereSix today. Three friends of mine who are also cops, and good ones. So they have agreed to join me for this little podcast today, and we'll just go ahead and dive right in. So the whole crux of this podcast, as I was just talking to these guys, is balance. Literally just the concept of balancing being a cop and playing other characters, being a cop and being off duty, balancing, in character, out of character, the whole 9 yards, balancing everything. So that being said, most of the people here have had a character that has been around for long enough to establish a pretty decent story out of character. Off duty as well as on duty. And so that being said, let's go ahead and start with the first little note I got here. Basically, so having a cop in a story, what is the biggest struggle? So let's kind of just go down the line here. So we'll start with Sixy. I'll go backwards on my screen here. So Sixy, what's the biggest struggle when balancing having a cop and a story, being a mechanic and a story character?
The biggest struggle for me is actually getting off fucking duty, to be honest.
I feel that.
Especially with my IRL job now.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get on and be a cop roleplay, and then when I'm done, I want to go to bed. So that's my biggest issue right now, and I'm trying to create stories within while I'm being a cop, such as Ivan, the serial killer, or just creating a relationship with criminals like Salt, who wants to hang out with Sid off duty, or Rossi, who wants to hang out with Sid off duty.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm quote unquote being a mechanic, I still can try to create a story to go then off duty with if I ever just go off duty.
Yeah, because any cop can go off duty, but if there's no relationships built up, there's no story, even shreds of it built up off duty, then you're just kind of standing there with twiddling your thumbs going, now what?
Exactly.
Zhane, what would be what's your biggest struggle to having a cop and having a story, like off duty or on duty?
I'd say my biggest struggle is guilt. Like if I'm on the on-call channel and I look and there's only one or two first responders on duty, but I have this other thing that I really want to do, whether it's Zhane being off duty or being on another character, I feel probably more personal responsibility than is healthy to go jump on duty and help out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've had nights like that. You just feel that compulsion, like I have to be on. I have to police. I have to cop.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then Zach, what would be your biggest struggle to balancing a cop and a story?
The main issue that I have is mostly allowing my character to show while I'm on duty.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
Because most of the time, yeah, I can go off duty, but then it's just like a separation between me being off duty and being a character. And then when I get on duty, it's kind of like expected a little bit that since she's in this place where she is a command character, that everyone expects that she's perfect, and that doesn't exist anywhere. There's no one on this planet that is perfect at whatever job that they have, regardless of their position or if they're the ones that are actually making the decisions and being the CEO and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then just allowing stuff to breathe.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I never thought about that. People who have those higher level characters, whether they're command or supervisors, whatever, sometimes I guess that's probably why a lot of people make those alt cops, so that they don't so that the character is kind of removed from that, because Cash Kennedy is not a supervisor. He's not a command member. He's a lower level. So I guess that's kind of Devo's way of kind of getting away from all of that, I would imagine.
It is, but that's the main issue, is the fact that like those characters can have story.
Mhm.
Those characters can be hard asses and be the person that is helping guide the rest of the force.
Mhm.
It's not something that I'm scared to or don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's also just allowing and recognizing the fact that you're dealing with a role player that doesn't do this as a job.
Yeah.
That they're trying to respond to stuff as they come, and then when they fuck up, they're like, okay, well, there could have been ways that we did this a little bit better, so let's tighten some stuff up, get some input, and then implement that input after the fact, and not look back and say, well, you fucked up in this instance, so you're gonna fuck up in every instance.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
actually
just allowing mistakes.
Yeah, that's actually something that we had talked about earlier, right before we started, about topic. So we can actually tie into that. So before we get over to like the end character, remembering mistakes and everything like that, let's go to the next thing, which is what would so same thought process, but what's the biggest perk? What's the biggest like help to the fact that we're balancing a cop in a story? So we've talked about our struggles. What's the biggest perk? Sixy?
The biggest perk of being a cop?
Biggest perk of being a cop and trying to balance a story.
The biggest perk is that we run into RP more. We run into people more. There's times where I remember as Emma, or even the beginning days of Emma on public or even whitelist, is you drive around finding RP. Yeah, there's moments where we have slow calls, no calls, or anything like that.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you drive up to a group of people, they will give you some sort of interaction, whether it be positive or negative. Whereas if you're a criminal or a civilian, if they don't want to give you the time of day, they just won't. I mean, that sometimes can happen as a cop, though, too.
Yeah.
But overall, I've noticed as a cop, you do get that interaction more times than not than you would as a civilian or criminal.
Yeah. Well, because you're being thrown around all of the map like every couple of minutes if you've got calls coming, and you're interacting with everybody from all walks of life in the character lineup. So you're
Right.
you're getting a lot more exposure to all different kind of nuggets of RP that are all over the map, as opposed to when you're a criminal, it's very selected. It's very sometimes difficult to find it. So yeah, that's actually really good. That's a good point. Zhane, what about you? What would you find is the biggest perk to being a cop and trying to maintain a story?
Well, I don't know if this is where you want to touch on sort of the evolution around the expectations of cops and storytelling.
Yeah, go for it. We can use
how
that as a tie-in.
they've evolved over time. Because it used to be very much the expectation that if coverage was limited, if there were not X number of officers on duty, you better be on duty.
Yeah.
You better not be derping around off duty. You better not be on an alt character. You signed up for this, go be a cop because you're a server mechanic.
What up, Daisy?
That has very much relaxed to the point of saying, I would almost say it's reversed.
Yeah.
We are encouraged to be able to tell stories on our characters or play other characters. And, we're still encouraged to be on call, make ourselves available if, the shit hits the fan and, people start getting shot at or whatever, we can come help.
Yeah.
But for me, that's definitely the biggest perk to being able to tell a story is feeling that I have that freedom to go do other things and not just be on patrol when I don't really want to because I'm a cop.
Yeah.
Being able to switch to another character and even, I have an alt cop. You were talking about alt cops. I have Jerry that I can switch to, who's a cop now for the last, 8 months or so. Jerry is a very different cop than Zhane is. He's got a very different feel to him.
That's an understatement of the year.
Zhane is all about reaching out and trying to build bridges with people, and Jerry's just kind of an asshole. He'll just
Jerry's the one who will burn down those bridges because it feels like it.
Yeah. So I still, have that outlet, and that I still get to do cop stuff, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
A way with a lot less responsibility too, because Jerry is just a trooper, not a supervisor like Zhane is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say for me that's the biggest thing, is just the freedom to be able to take that time and tell those stories, whether it's your relationships with other cops, your relationships with other people. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
Yeah, I like that. And it's actually funny you mentioned that, because that was actually the reason I applied for cop for LEO last year, and of course the backlog was ridiculous because I made McNeil last summer, so he's already a year old. But of course nothing got pushed through until end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and I was actually
We're not
glad.
going to talk about how old Zhane is.
I'm actually glad that it happened when it did, because of exactly what you just said, that we're encouraged to push story with our characters. We're encouraged to go off duty and roleplay. We're encouraged to play alts, because that was my biggest holdup. Like over a year ago when I was first thinking of applying, was that the SOPs dictated you needed to be on. If there was nobody on, you needed to, this, that, and other thing. So the fact that that's now pretty much reversed, as you said, is a huge encouragement to a lot of the more story-driven role players versus the mechanical-driven role players. So that's actually really, really cool. Zach, what about you?
Being able to interact with pretty much every single person on the server and not have to really work super hard with it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the call volume, I actually hate it when the call volume is really high.
Oh, I hate it.
Because
Yeah.
I can't appropriately pick when I want to actually focus on something and be like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Because I've been trying to implement more things where it's like, yeah, let me do community service. I'll reduce your time, and then you gotta fucking pick garbage up on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
But that's not really something that an LEO would technically do. It's more something along the lines of
DOC.
department. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just like responding to the smaller stuff that is gonna have more role play in it because of the fact that this person is putting more time into it, or just generally they generate more role play for cops because they're more interactive.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like for me, the golden hour for cop RP is like, if you're getting if you're able to get one call, and as soon as you're done, you have either one that's just ready or another one that comes in shortly after. You can just basically go to call to call to call, but you don't feel rushed between them. To me, that's the best. Like that's the golden hour for cops. It doesn't happen often, doesn't happen all the time, but it's great because you get to have your role play with that interaction. You get to interact with those people until whatever story's happening, and then you get to move on to the next one without feeling rushed or feeling pressured. I definitely don't like feeling like you have to rush away from a scene. I think that's something that was talked about recently, whether it was, I think it was in a community meeting or something, and they spoke about, don't feel like you have to rush away from a scene because of something else going on. Role play that out and be a part of that scene in that RP, and I agree with that. Okay, so actually Mighty agreed with Zhane. He says, I agree with Zhane, being a new cop, being able to be off duty and also play other characters is important. We just said that. I completely agree with that. Okay, so Zhane kind of tied into this a little bit, and then we can go on to the next one, which is actually something that I believe Zach tied into as well. But this one's basically the evolution on expectations of cops, which is basically the rules, the guidelines, the SOPs regarding off-duty, playing other characters, and focusing story. And we kind of already touched on that, but we can kind of just go over it if we would like. And our thought processes on how that has benefited us. And since Zhane kind of brought it up, I'll let him kind of start with that. If there's something specific you kind of want to target on that regarding that evolution, because you've actually been around. I think you and Zaquelle have both been around for that transition and seen the change. So what is your thought process on the change that has happened with the evolution of the expectations?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I might ramble a bit, and feel free to cut me off.
If we do, it'll just be to add points, and we'll just kind of cut in as we see fit.
Because I'm in a position where Zhane has been a character for a very, very long time before he was a cop. I may be, correct me if you can think of anything, I may be the only active cop character who wasn't created for the purpose of being a cop.
I'm pretty sure the only other one would be Legs.
True.
I think Legs is the only other cop that was created not as a cop and had story and then became a cop, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Oh, Richard corrected me. Jay Parker. I forgot. He was a therapist first.
Okay, so but there's a few of us. There's a few of us.
Was wanting to be a cop since a good amount of time.
Okay.
And it's just waiting for it.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we're definitely in the minority. Most people want to be a cop, so they create a character to be a cop.
Yeah.
So the way I think of my storytelling on Zhane is that this is just the latest chapter. Zhane has had a long story on the server before he became a cop. Being a cop is his job now, and it's something that he's found a lot of satisfaction in. But if I had to tamp down Zane's story to the point where he's just a cop and everything else falls so far into the background that it's not satisfying to be off duty anymore, then I would enjoy all of it much less.
Sure.
Because I need that character to stay well-rounded. And no disrespect to anyone who does what I'm about to say, because everybody comes into this for different reasons, but Zhane will never be a character who logs in and out in the locker room.
Yeah.
Even if all I do...
Attacked. I feel attacked.
I can
right
say
now.
that because I try to balance it.
Blazing, okay?
Yeah.
I don't have time. Me driving all the way
for
home,
me-
fuck that noise. Traffic.
No.
For me personally, there's usually a little bit of off-duty time before and after. It may be nothing more but quote-unquote waking up at the house and driving to work. Sometimes that's literally all it is.
Yeah.
But just for my role play, whether I'm streaming or not, and you guys know I'm usually not, just for me, I need this character
Probably
story to
so.
have that framework of he's living his life and work is part of it, but not all of it.
I like that. That's something that I tried this. I will say tried in the past tense because chat knows I'm horrible at this now because McNeil will log in at Mission Row and log out at Mission Row. I try very hard to do that where I log in at home and I drive the car into work and go to work. Even that's as much as it is. And sometimes I'll log in and have some pre-duty RP and then go over and do it. But it, as Zach said, some days you're just lazy. Some days you just log in at Mission Row, you log out at Mission Row. That's the end of it. But
yeah, no, but I've been proud of myself lately. I think the only times I've logged in the locker room has been like if I'm responding to an all call because there's something going down.
Yeah.
But other than that, on my normal patrol days, I've been really good about forcing myself to take that time before and after to make sure I'm continuing to play him as a well-rounded character with a full life.
I get to use the excuse that I'm living with McLeod and my home is set still at the place I'm renting at, so it's like impossible for me to do that. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Tial has called me out. I feel texted. Unless he has plans, then he will come to work, or more so, forgets he parked at Mission Row lot. That happens all the time. As I'll drive into work, and then I'll like, oh shoot, it's past midnight. I need to go to bed, and I'll log out at Mission Row. But then I'll log back into the house. I'm like, where's my car? Oh, that's right, it's at Mission Row. So.
And please, like I said earlier, please nobody take me the wrong way. I'm not saying that logging in and out of Mission Row is bad RP. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me, the way that I need to frame it for myself is to expand on that.
Bosco always logs in at La Mesa unless it's an emergency. Yeah, but does Bosco even own any cars on whitelist? I think he's just
a real question.
I was gonna say that is a solid question because I'm pretty sure Bosco just has gobs of money.
He does. No, he owns a car because he bought it with Ford.
Oh right.
But has he ever driven it?
And he was still he was still having a badge, and it's just like you're not even out of uniform.
He does. I've never seen Bosco out of uniform, and even when he's in his supervisor outfit, where he's got like his badge on his belt and he got like the button up, it's so out of place. It's wrong. It's just weird. Okay, so yeah, so like the evolution on the expectations has changed dramatically. And 60 kind of touched on that a little bit. 60 years, Zach, do you guys have anything else you kind of want to touch on in regards to that? Because Zach, I think you've been around for that transition as well, because 60 and I kind of came in right as that transition was kind of established.
Yeah, I was a cop before the transition started. And just because I'm in the position that I am, I kind of miss those days because it was very clear on what was expected of you and what you were supposed to do in X, Y, and Z and how you were supposed to respond to things. Because as much as we want to say that we are creating story, we're the character that is a response. So we only respond to things when we're on duty. And when we start to be proactive, it kind of gets a little bit muddied. Or if we start to show that our character does have these faults that didn't get picked up by anybody and didn't get appropriately managed before it became to a catalyst point where, you know, there was two paths and you picked the path that ended up severely changing the story of your character.
Interesting.
Before, that would not have been allowed.
Yeah.
As soon as any type of command staff or supervisor staff saw that you were kind of going down the path of you might seriously fucked up, they would have a conversation with you. Like, I think my first OIS that I did was a 9mm taser, and that was the first time I got reprimanded for it, and it was like, you are now suspended until you get training. And I was lucky enough that I got the training right then. But if it wasn't that way, then I would have been suspended until somebody had the time. But I don't want that for how we are now.
Sure. I definitely have to agree with what you said about if we are more proactive, that's where you can have problems arise. You can have situations become problematic. I know that McNeil was starting to get a little more proactive with a couple different characters he was running into that were, there was a story that was building where he could recognize that something was going on behind the scenes that was wrong. There was a problem, and he was trying to help, and he was trying to be that community policeman I built him to be. And there's some issues that started to kind of pop up in and out of character. And I had to kind of pull away from those so as to not cause more problems, as well as to not destroy the character. And so I see where you're coming from with that. I mean, I like the fact that we are encouraged to roleplay out and push story and go off doing everything, but I definitely see what you mean about having clear and cut defined expectations and lines regarding what we can and can't do as cops. I think that's actually a very solid point.
Because as much as we like to say that it's free reign, there are still boxes that we need to take off, and we're playing within the lines of what we can. But as soon as we start slightly stepping over, it's not a very quick, well, you're kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. You gotta tighten it back up. If you want to continue down this path, then we need to start talking about the repercussions and what that will mean for your character. Yeah. And getting that conversation started before anything seriously bad happens to your character, where it's essentially a perma, because as much as you can say, well, they just can become a criminal, when it comes down to my characters, I have more of a moral compass figured out for them than a background story. Because background stories, yes, they're important, but a moral compass to me is more important for my character, because it will decide how they're going to respond to things that are happening around them. Well, if they're going to be complete dicks all the time.
The moral compass is that filter that your character looks through that defines and determines what they're going to do in a situation. If they're presented with a situation where they have the opportunity to pick up a wad of, if they find a plastic bag on the sidewalk in the middle of the night, no one's going to see them take it, but they find a plastic bag full of dirty money. Are they going to take it? Are they going to leave it? Or are they going to take it and turn it in? Are they going to take it? What are they going to do with it? That filter, that moral compass you apply to your character, and that's not exclusive to cops. That's crims, that's cops, that's civs.
That's everyone.
Everyone has that moral compass that they apply to their character. And I was literally just having this exact conversation with like 3 different people in the past week regarding Paco, one of my original characters. His moral compass screwed him over. I applied this very tight-knit moral compass, and it made him a very hard character to play as time went on. So on newer characters, I've lessened that moral compass because it makes it very difficult. But very few cop characters I can think of, if they were to get, like Zhane said earlier, like if Zhane got fired from police work tomorrow, it'd be very hard to play that character because his moral compass and who he is as a person, not a lot of options after that at that point.
Oh, he just sit home and play video games.
Oh, well, there you go.
And that's the shitty part about it. It's like they essentially become a civ, but because they were a cop, then things are a little bit more broken down and not accessible to them unless they prove the fact that they're not a cop anymore.
And even then, who's going to really trust them?
Exactly, but then that's also breaking their moral compass. It's like, just become a crim. Well, that just breaks the character. There needs
to be if that situation happens. So let's use McNeil as an example. If McNeil was to get fired tomorrow for something, would he become a crim? Well, if it was just you're fired for this, no, he wouldn't just become a crim automatically. That goes against who he is as a person and everything else. There would have to be a quintessential defining moment that would happen to the character where he is forced to make a decision, and that decision will then push him in the direction. Like, you know, if someone he cared about was to get hurt, and instead of reporting it to authorities, he went and sought vengeance, that would be more of a quintessential defining moment that pushes the character in more of a darker path as opposed to the path he's always been going.
It's funny because most cop characters actually fantasize about vigilantes.
Oh, all of them do. Every
like,
cop character.
Really,
Motherfucker, because he just constantly shoots me. What
Yeah,
the fuck?
yeah. Every
really, Zach, you would say.
I was gonna say every cop character that has ever existed has thought about it, and all the cop characters we've ever seen that have gotten fired and still played the character after getting fired, they always try and go down that path. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And-
it's.
Mhm,
Go ahead.
Horizon, yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Zhane is very lucky that he was able to become a cop, because he was a civilian character for a year and a half, 2 years almost before applying to be an LEO,
Mhm.
and it's very hard to keep your nose clean that
Oh my
long
gosh,
on the
yeah.
server.
As people have said, Civ RP
I-
is RP on hard mode. It really
Zane-
is.
Zhane worked for Mav Doretto and Maxine Devereaux. I don't know if people these days know who those
Oh, I know
people
who
are,
they are. Yeah.
but Zhane, I don't think he was ever actually accessory to anything, but failure to report, oh yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, exactly, TL, especially who he worked for. I mean, that's actually, to be honest, I think Zhane, I can't think of another character besides Legs, but I don't know Legs' story as well as I know Zane's, because Zane's physically told McNeil in character enough times that I've heard it. But I don't know a lot of characters that kept a nose clean that long on a Civ at all, let alone was able to apply to an LEO, get the LEO, and continue that story. I can't name one Civ who's done that.
Legs, I would say.
Legs wasn't clean. That's the thing, is Legs wasn't clean. That's why I was saying I can't name one other character.
Well, yeah, he was the cleanest of them, probably. but yeah,
Cleanest
you're right.
of, yeah.
Yeah.
Legs was filthy.
It's so hard to keep a character to the extent of not committing crimes. And
Yeah.
the funny part is, I had a Civ character that was essentially forced to stay a Civ because no one wanted that character to lose their dream of becoming an EMS.
Uh-huh.
That's
I would be
amazing.
Like,
You tried
I
so
tried-
hard.
I tried so hard. I was like, I want to put hits on people because I'm done with their asses. And I would go, like, I went to Mav and said, hey, can you kill this person for me? And then I would be like, hey, I can also patch people up because I am taking classes at the university for EMS, because I went through the RP of her actually
Yeah.
getting the education before even she was able to apply on
Oh, that's
SOE.
cool.
And then also realizing that all the people she hangs out with either burn people alive, cut people up because they fucked up, or just commit crimes on the daily.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah,
And
there's
it's just-
actually, I think there's a few characters that I've been around that have been like, we have to protect them, we have to keep them safe, we can't let them do all these nasty things. That's
Exactly.
funny.
But then we're having the switch where it's just like, well, if you lose this position, just
Yeah.
become a. So it's weird.
Yeah.
'Cause I was
To be
on the other
honest,
side.
there's actually a part of me that would like to see, I mean, and there's no way anyone could actually ever make this happen because it would have to be 100% natural RP. There's nothing one way around it. It would be really interesting to see more, not a lot, but a few more cop or EMS characters take that darker path, but naturally through RP, not through some mess up and they get fired, but like to be honest, what Mason did. Like, Mason was so furious of what happened that he went in and he shot the people that were responsible for it while still on duty. Like, he consciously made the decision that I'm going to end my career doing this. I don't care. I'm doing it anyways.
He knew it was going to be the end of the story.
And he knew-
'cause
yeah.
There's no way it's not.
Yep, exactly. He knew it was the end of that story and he did it anyways. And I love that because that is a hard, that's one of those decisions that out of character, you're like, no, I'm not going to do this. But he did, everyone watching that stream when he pulled the gun was like, he's not going to shoot. Like, there was not one person in that stream that was like, oh yeah, he'll shoot. And he did, and it blew everybody's mind, and it was just crazy. You know, it still carried his character, it absolutely did, but he still made the conscientious decision on duty. And It's rare to see that because most people put that mental block in their head of this is against rules. I can't do this. I'm not going to do it. So they don't do it.
Because it's a loss in character and out of character.
Yes.
Like even Hayes, it was to the point where she felt alienated from the police force because all her previous LEO friends were fucking vanishing on her, and she was just like, you know what? The only family that I seem to have is Jeff and Alex is constantly helping people with crime, and Jeff sold illegal guns. And they're my family.
So many people.
I relate more to the criminals than I do to the people that I'm trying to arrest or try to work with. So am I going to stay? And if it wasn't probably for the fact that people listened to her and like freaking Bishop and Thorn and King, like if it wasn't for those characters, she probably would have just been like, you know what, there's no point anymore because I don't have any family in the LEOs.
And talking about cops with flaws and making decisions that you know is going to end or severely alter a story. I don't know if a lot of people remember Sauter's second cop, Mike Sanderson. After he got suspended for something, he role played developing a drug problem. It was like addiction to painkillers, I believe.
I like that.
And I thought that was so badass. That was such a great RP choice. It got him fired.
Well, of course
he didn't play a cop again for a long time. But I thought that was such a great role play decision.
I was actually, that's something I've been thinking about lately, is because like you watch a lot of these dramas on TV and you see all these cops that have all these personal issues, whether it's family issues at home, whether it's a drug addiction, whether it's an alcohol addiction, and they do everything in their power to keep it quiet at work. Nobody at work ever knows about it. But when it comes out, it's always this big reveal. It's always this big situation. And that's actually really cool that somebody actually role played that. Somebody actually role played having that crutch, having that demon that they have to battle every day when they're at work, and it affects their job, and then ultimately gets them fired, or ultimately they get help or whatever it is. And I didn't know somebody had a role play that. That's actually super cool.
Yeah, and I think the environment now is a little bit different, where maybe if it were handled correctly, it could be like a long-term suspension, get help, and get clean, you can come back. Back then it was just, no, you're done.
You're done, yeah.
But
I would like to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that to just be you're done.
Oh,
we have therapists and everything that can help further that story.
I would love to see more cops with flaws. And I say that because that's what I've been trying to do with McNeil. Like, so McNeil, right now, I'm still establishing who he is as a cop as well as his personality. But that being said, one of the biggest things that I built into him was actually with the help of Oddities. Because Oddities had her medic at the same time that I had my cop, and we made our characters having been exes from before. We wanted them to be in a relationship, but we're like, we're not going to do the happy-go-lucky married couple. We want something that's broken and something different. So we went with them being separated, still married, but separated, and had it led to some good role play. Just Zhane, the conversation between McNeil and Zhane that one day in the car was
such a good conversation.
It was such good role play, and it came from the fact that Zhane had to work with his ex, and McNeil was having to work with his ex, and it was that whole dynamic that doesn't really happen often because it's the other way around. You have cops meet EMS on duty, or cops meet cops on duty, and they get together, and then look at this, it's perfect. They're happy, they have a relationship. Very rarely do you see.
Wow, I feel attacked again.
Fuck happy relationships, right? It's all about constant and utter struggle.
Yes, exactly. And that's like so Tease and I had the dynamic with Paco and Lauren on our crims, where it was where they met and they needed each other, and so no matter what decisions they made, it always resulted in them pulling closer together. So like, okay, let's do the exact opposite with McNeil and April, and we'll do it where they know they have to make these decisions because it's their job, it's their duty, it's their public service, but it's going to damage their relationship. And it's happened even times when we don't even intentionally do it. It happens, and it's actually really good role play where I feel guilty because April will text McNeil, and I know that Tease and April's just wandering around, but she wants to talk to McNeil, and I'm going from call to call to call to call, and I can't even pick my phone up. And then she goes, I'm just going to bed, and I feel OOC bad. She's like, no, it's perfect. This plays into her hating him because he's at work. And it's great. Like, those sorts of flaws are really great, but they're very tricky to handle, and I think it'd be really cool to see more cops do that. Punches April after being robbed. Yeah. That was so wrong. Oh, that was so wrong.
I want to provide a little bit of a counterpoint to that.
Okay,
if
go
I
for
can.
it. Yeah, go for it.
Because I mean, we all approach this differently and for different reasons. For me, like I saw what Zaquelle said in chat, all struggle all the time.
Yeah.
For me, that is just gets super tiresome
Yes.
at a certain point.
Your characters need to have wins
And-
every once in a while
Yeah.
for their story.
And we all want different things out of this, and some of us, again, not attacking anyone, some of us do our role play as an entertainment platform. We're full-time streamers.
Mhm.
We are trying to tell stories in a certain way. Some of us do our role play just more as a way to entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
And for me, with the way that I approach cop role play, having something like a happy relationship in the background provides balance.
Yes.
Zhane takes his job very seriously. He's in a supervisor role, and has people that come to him for support. He gets stressed out very easily. He doesn't always show it, but he does. And so having just a counterpoint to that
Immortal.
is healthy for the role play.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. And that's actually an argument that I've made as well, is that sometimes especially if your character's struggling a lot in, like, so for example, as a cop, you're dealing with crims getting away, you're dealing with getting shot at, you're dealing with being yelled at, you're dealing with all this stuff, and then your character comes home and you have all these struggles at home, it can get very demoralizing out of character, because it's like, okay, I can only deal with this so much emotionally or
That
mentally.
sounds like real life. Let me get something better.
Yeah, exactly. But having that balance is great. So if you're it's tricky, and it's kind of nice to see it happen where your character is succeeding at work and struggling at home, and then vice versa. You flip it, so there's that balance. It's not, you can't really orchestrate it. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way, but it's really kind of like it catches your eye when it does happen. 60's being awfully quiet, except for feeling very attacked through some of this.
Well, okay. Well, most of this is, you have to remember, I didn't know about GTA RP until February 2019.
So you were a year
most of
after I
what-
did.
Yeah, so most of what I know about roleplay, especially with family
Hey,
RP,
Dylan.
is around the time Kylie Bitkin became a cop on Family. So I don't have like that all that knowledge of what it was like beforehand and everything like that. I'm
Mhm.
pretty fucking new.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, what's your relationship with McLeod and how it progresses
Yeah.
with both of them constantly being busy? Because you have that roleplay happening.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have that roleplay happening, and I'm someone that, and I haven't even talked to Immortal about this, ironically. I'm someone that doesn't like to do like the PDA RP when it comes to relationship RP. I don't, I mean, obviously people teach their own, but I'm not someone that likes to do that, and so me and Immortal do a lot of like at-home RP, like text RP. When when Sid gets home from work, this is what she'll find, or this is the conversation they'll have.
Yeah.
And that's just on the fact that he is EU and I'm NA, and I'm of course going to be on until 7 a.m. his time.
Yeah.
So it's just it's finding that understanding
that, host.
OOC, because in character they always understand, but OOC, that's where you find that understanding to have that relationship. And
Yeah. It's also a thing that I've done for relationship RP. It kind of scares me because I have bad experiences where people develop feelings out of character, and it's just like, my character is doing this, I am not interested at all.
Yeah, it comes down that right there, because that's people have thought that in the past with so many people who've done relationship communication. Trust and communication.
So I'll probably talk to you out of character before I even start thinking about doing this roleplay with you.
Yeah, and I'm with you, 60, on the PDA stuff. Like, I'm with you on there. I don't do a lot of that on. I didn't do a lot of that on Paco and Lauren. I don't do that a lot of that on McNeil and April. It's like every once in a while you'll see one / me of like a holds hand or a kiss in the cheek or something. That's the extent of it, and it only is done if it fits. If it fits the RP. Wait, what was
I hate doing /me kisses. I hate it. I fucking hate it.
I don't like those. Yeah.
Thing, I'm just like, this is weird now.
Yeah.
Now I feel attacked.
No, it's each their own. I can't do it. Like I would be to the point where I definitely would do like /kisses McLeod on the cheek or whatever, but Yeah, like Immortal says in chat, trying to make each other laugh and doing stupid shit together.
Yep.
Like when he was dressed as an alien, and I was just like doing Dance 38 or whatever. That's their PDA, is them being stupid in public. It is literally.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like RP distress.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
relaxing and doing stupid shit.
And Zach, like you were talking about, establishing a framework and expectations out of characters is important.
Yes.
Like Zane and Sam have a new relationship, and Rex and I have talked pretty extensively about, like, not so much like planning out the relationship, but just like what are our expectations of each other, what are we comfortable with,
Setting the
how do
boundaries.
we want to handle this. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it with Grab and Selvik, and I'm pretty open to most stuff, but as soon as it gets like super touchy feely / me shit, I come from a different RP background where we didn't do type in / whatever you're doing. So I'm pretty like lackluster with my /me's already, and that's just like something that I'm not even interested in doing.
And see, I come from an old school, like all text RP background. Like my RP started in like AOL chat rooms, so I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was all voice.
A lot of people got their start in tech. A lot of people that I know, anyways, got their start in text-based RP. I didn't even actually realize it until I did like sat down and thought about it. That my RP started in a text-based RP scenario on a forum. So that makes sense. But yeah, I'm with you on the PDA thing. Like, to each their own. People want to do what they want to do. But further into that, what you were just saying, Sixy, about having text-based RP, like off server. Like, this is what you'd find when you go. That Tease and I've done that, where we've done like, hey, this is like, we want to RP that our characters are having this conversation that we don't need to be on the server for. So we'll have the characters will have this full-on conversation that, you know, we want to be able to have the characters progress a little bit more story. And it's, but not have to worry, but like leave it, like I'll type it, checks in and go to bed, and then I'll wake up tomorrow or whatever. It's handy to be able to do that. Plus it flexes your creative muscles a little bit.
And also,
and just did CRP. Like,
CRP
you had
works
drinks
too.
with my character because there's 2 glasses and also there's food on the table. So you had this conversation. Congrats. You didn't even know.
Okay, first off, Immortal, yes, same. I was on Habbo Hotel when I was like 12, but that's beside the point. Like, just like the last time it happened was the other day when fucking McLeod got the mom and dad talking.
Oh no.
He sent me
That.
He just said, like, when you get home, if you don't mind me sharing this, Immortal, I better ask you before I fucking just read it out loud. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna see if he's okay with me reading it before I actually read it.
He's saying share it. He says go for it.
Okay. It's like, so Taylor and Brooks both gave me the protective awkward parent chat today, and first of all, I'm glad they care about you so much. I just don't think the sheriff approves of me too much.
Oh, feels bad, man. Feels ginger, man.
Just a relationship where they just both like separate due to lack of interest.
No, but then he just goes on and saying, like, hopefully I'll win her around, and like, he's not good at this stuff, but I'm here for the long haul, and you make me happy, and that's what we're here for. And that's like exactly that's something that of course would be great to do in role playing in RP, but you also, with work schedules, with the fact that we are state employees on the characters that are on the servers, especially with him having a cop now.
Yeah.
It's just things like that kind of conversation wouldn't be able to always happen right away, but it would be awkward to wait for like a week from now to have that conversation. I don't know. It's just.
Yeah. No, I think that's perfectly valid. I've always been a fan and a supporter of text-based RP when, like, not obviously not all the time. We do need to be on the server and have our characters exist, but there are a lot of gaps because we're talking about people who exist. They're like us. We don't when we go to bed, we don't just shut off. When we go home, we don't just shut off. Things happen. We dream. We have things that we do at home. We have chores around the house. We go off and do errands. So you can kind of fill some of those gaps when you're not role-playing the character with story chunks, rather than just assuming they just turn into C-3PO and shut down for the night when they get home. Like that, you can fill in those gaps. McLeod can join Sam in living in fear. She's terrified of Jerry and Zhane. Jerry and Zhane finds it highly amusing. I mean, it's valid. Jerry's kind of horrifying, to be honest. He's scared McNeil twice.
He is fantastic.
He is fantastic. He's
I
wonderful.
love Jerry.
Jerry is. I just found out today that Jerry was made like as a joke.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and that's amazing to me. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain that real
Yeah,
quick?
go for it.
So way back in the day, Sheriff Eli had an ongoing joke about the non-existent mechanic who would fix up his car when it was broken. It's called Jerry. He would tell stories about Jerry. He would pull into the garage and say, "Hey Jerry," so, and just the mechanic that wasn't there. He personified the /fix command basically.
Love it.
And I just thought, this was back before I ever thought about being a cop, but I thought it would be funny if one day somebody pulled into the motor pool and said, "Hey Jerry," and there was an answer.
I love that. I love that.
I just made the character. I didn't ask anybody if I could do it. I just made the character. I named him Jerry Can. He didn't have a last name before that, and I thought that was funny.
Jerry, who could do it? Jerry Can.
And I just showed up at Mission Row, and Boscarelli was the first one to roll up and started interacting with him. At first, he was very confused, but after a minute, he got the joke and he ran with it and started telling people over the radio that, "Hey, Jerry's on duty," and that was pretty pivotal, because if his response had been like, "No, I don't know who you are, you're trespassing," then that pretty much would have been the end of it.
Pretty much,
It would
yeah. You
not
can't
have
really go
gone any
past that.
further. Yeah.
That is incredible. I love that. I love that there was open to that, where you just did it and people rolled with it, and now the character's still around, and you haven't. It's all over the place, and I love it. And Jerry's a fixture on the server. He doesn't even pop around that much, and everybody knows about Jerry, and I love that. Well,
I still enjoy pulling him out, but Zane's definitely the focus.
Oh, for sure, that makes sense. Zane's your story character. Zane's where you've got you got the relationship with Sam, you've got him as a supervisor, you've got all that going on, and so it makes sense that you're going to focus that. So something that was mentioned earlier, we've kind of like gotten away from, which is fine. We can kind of circle back towards, was remembering that like certain elements of cop stuff, keeping it in character and regarding as far as like we were talking about mistakes, we were talking about corrections, we were talking about personalities and everything, and making sure that the story stays in character. You guys remember we were talking about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We could use the most recent one as an example.
Which one?
Sid's mistake of bailing out of the car.
See, I don't even know about this. You guys mentioned this in voice chat. I have no idea what this is. So 60, why don't you go ahead and we'll just use this as an example. Why don't you go with that?
So I was having headaches like no other motherfucker, and apparently we were flying through the air, and Zhane was riding with me, and he was just saying like, "Oh, we flew through the air," and someone's like, "Oh, did you say what was it, Dukes of Hazzard saying?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I don't even know what that is." And like, it was to the point where like Sid was like, "I'm just being bullied right now. We're just going to a 1090 that we already got told there's no cars out front. I'm just going to bail out."
Like it just kind of hiccups and then it won't reconnect. It's very weird.